All right, this is a new video called "How Gandhi Killed 1,000,000 People," and it's funny because I've started learning more and more and more and more about this peaceful, loving person, Namaste, and I absolutely hate him. I absolutely hate him because the more I hear about him and the more I see from like the brain rotted left and like even right media, it just sounds like something he would say. Someone who's living out of touch with the real world.
Like, I absolutely hate the fact, like, I don't care how popular you are. I don't care how much nationalist you are. There should be no way of just having one person on the currency. Like, he's not the only influential person in history. There were so many great men and women out there fighting freedom struggles, whatever.
Yep, and he's the only one on the bill.
He's apparently the only one that's on the currency. He's the only one who's remembered. He's the only one who's called father of the nation. And it's like, I don't like that ideology, because like here in the US they have separate one on $1, on $2, on $5, on $10. It's a way of remembering all the great men that built a nation. Yeah, but an Indian one, it's like it's just Gandhi. It's just Gandhi. And I'm like, there were so many men who did so much more for our country
sacrificed
than him.
themselves, martyred themselves, and Gandhi's the only one that's remembered. That's just insane.
Yeah.
I've always seen it as, like, that was the first red flag when I landed in India and saw the money. That was, like, legit the first red flag. Because, I mean, we have Abraham Lincoln, we have freaking
like
George Washington,
all the
we have
people
Benjamin.
who made the country, right? Who helped the country in a certain way. And in India, there are just so many people like that.
Yeah.
But no, it's just one guy. And he has his own day. He has his own titles. He has his own currency. And, like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because, like, me, I've always viewed it as, like, what did the Roman Empire do every time there was a new emperor? They printed the money with the new emperor's face on it. And anyone who had an old coin after a certain period of time, it was worth half the amount. That's basically how the Roman Empire did it. And then you see Gandhi's face on everything.
Yeah.
Just seems very, very, very shallow. Very.
Well, let's look at it this way. If you put gods on currency, at least they won't burn money. So
Who wouldn't burn money?
the people. Because you know how people burn other people's gods and riots and everything. Because of the religion differences. But
it's like, no, it's still worth something.
It's worth
still
something.
worth something.
Yeah, but I don't think putting gods is a good idea. But at least put the freedom fighters, the people who actually helped build the nation in it, except just one person there.
Yeah.
And it's just...
Yeah, because for us, it's all those who did something for the nation and built the Constitution, who freed the slaves, who they all had some important thing. They all had some important thing. But in India, it's all Gandhi.
Yeah.
It's all Gandhi.
Pulled off something that had never been done before in human history. He turned nonviolent resistance into a political weapon powerful enough to fight off a world empire. Without...
Well, he didn't fight
it
no.
off. He could, like, that's the thing. Again, no matter how much the West realizes the bad, they still praise him for making India independent. It wasn't him. It wasn't him.
It was countless of people that lost their lives during the struggle till the Britishers realized that they could no longer
Yeah, they
rule.
couldn't win.
Yeah.
They reached a part where the nation was no longer under their control.
Yeah.
So they went to the peaceful guy and brokered a deal. Namaste. Yeah. Every time I think of Gandhi, I'm always pissed. I'm just like, yes, peaceful. I hate everyone, but peaceful.
Yeah, and he speaks that way, like you were talking.
Yeah. Always trying to be calm. And it's just like, I'm going to sleep with my granddaughter naked and prove that, namaste, I'm a loving man. Like, what?
Yeah.
No man needs to even think that to prove they're a good person.
Yeah.
The fact that you would have to think you would have to do that to prove something shows a lot. I'll just say.
And in 1947, he and India won.
No,
They
India
made British
won.
rule morally indefensible and politically unworkable without a bloody revolution. Yet within a year, 1 million people, maybe a lot more, were dead in one of history's worst massacres as India split along religious lines into India.
Well, that was
and
Gandhi's.
this thing,
was Gandhi's
yeah.
actions.
Yeah.
Instead, because Britain wanted to be out of there,
Yep.
and Gandhi allowed them to go out by allowing this split. If Gandhi wasn't there, India would have held on longer, would have caused Britain to, hey, we're ostracizing you, but you have to be here in order to help with this whole thing. No, Britain wanted to get out.
Yep.
They wanted to get out and be done with it because they were being forced out, and Gandhi was like, okay, we'll do whatever you need. And then this ended up happening.
You know, in his letter, when during the Bhagat Singh thing, he wrote a letter, and in I don't remember the content of the letter, but it was like a very passive one. It wasn't like demanding that no, don't kill this guy. It was just something stupid. And in the end, he wrote, "Your humble servant."
Yeah.
That says a lot about the father of the nation than anything else.
Well, the father of the nation was a pet to another nation.
Yeah,
as long
I
as to
always
keep
hate
control.
the fact that they gave his name and his legacy so much power when he shouldn't even be. Like, sure, he did a few things, but there were a lot of people who did a lot more than what he would ever imagine of doing.
Yeah. One has to remember the line, "Give me blood and I'll give you freedom."
Yeah.
Yeah. That was Bhagat Singh, right?
No, it was, I think, Subhash Chandra Bose.
Oh, the over top tyrant, basically.
No, he wasn't tyrant.
Little over the top, I feel. I need to see that one, because that's the thing. Again, peace is all well and good to say during peace times, but
they had to go out of their way because he built the Indian National Army, and he was like with like other countries like getting their support and everything and trying to overthrow the Britishers because it was just getting more and more violent in India, and they just wanted to end the things.
yeah,
And
they
so-
needed to get out.
Yeah.
They had to get out.
Yeah,
And-
like put his face in one of the money, the currency.
Yeah, but that says a lot, because look at because the Gandhi's party was been in politics for like the majority of like the past 60 years.
Yeah.
And then finally it changes, and look at what happens to India. When it finally has a party that isn't capitulatory, that isn't, oh, we must make peace, we must make love. Let's trade our land up here, because if we give them the land they ask for, they will not attack us. It's just like that was Indira Gandhi.
Yeah.
Who basically signed it away, causing even more turmoil. It was just so freaking nasty.
Because we could have won the battle and just be done with the Kashmir issue once and for all.
Yep.
But since she was like, oh, I'm in my success era, so let's sacrifice something to maintain my position.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
And then your name goes down in mud. Like, that's the thing. It's like everyone can say what they will about Trump, but at least well, except for what he's doing to the own nation, but he's just pushing for the nation to grow stronger, to be stronger, to be stronger. Again, everyone should feel the same way about their own nation, because the fact that this split happened because of Gandhi has led to more death tolls, more casualties in India because of it.
Yep.
Because everyone in Pakistan believes that they were kicked out of their homeland, and India constantly has to defend itself from someone that used to be a part of itself.
Yeah. You know, even Gandhi's own son went to Pakistan because he didn't want to stay there.
Yeah.
And he literally said that Gandhi can be a father to the nation, but he was never a father to me.
Yeah. That speaks volumes. That speaks volumes.
Pakistan. I'll describe how violent that became, because by modern standards, it's difficult to even comprehend. And then I'll get into not only what happened in India, but how patterns of revolutions and violence repeat throughout history, how idealistic movements collide with machineries of power, even when they start off peaceful. I'm Ken LaCourte, and I dug into what happened during the India partition and why revolutions so often descend into terror. We'll look at how nonviolence became slaughter. It's partially explained because destroying is the easy part, but we'll also take a look into other reasons why revolutions turn deadly. And finally, we'll take a broader look, asking if blood is the rule or the exception, with an interesting Indian comparison to the American Revolution. Okay, so how did nonviolence become slaughter? Britain ruled India for nearly 200 years. They extracted its resources and built a system that funneled wealth back to London. Cotton, tea, spices. India helped make Britain rich. The British East India Company ran the place like a business until 1858, when the Crown took control after a massive rebellion. By the early 1900s, India was generating
That was
enormous
the
profit.
time of Rani Lakshmibai, the movie that we watched.
Yeah. Yeah,
So there were a lot of sacrifices during that time too. It
Yeah.
was just the Indians weren't united.
Yeah, no,
yeah, because they would ask for support, and then
The
they
other
would
Indians-
cahoot with the Britishers,
like
basically.
there would be some sultans which would sell out their nation or their neighbors for more
Yeah.
financial gain, because for them, again, a lot of people the same thing is with politicians. A lot of them don't view their people as the right to the land. They view their people as a commodity, something to be traded, something to be transactioned. That's something that people need to realize about politicians. Most politicians only care about their bottom line and lining their own pocket, not about the people they're supposed to serve. And it's one of those things, like throughout India's history, India wasn't united. They all shared like common traits, common beliefs, but they all had
everybody
different
had their
ruling
own territories. Yeah,
their own ruling areas, and that's how you ended up with the
there were
borders in the first
princely
place.
kingdoms and everything.
Yeah.
So one of them would support the whole idea of having a collective decision on keeping the Britishers out, and then one of them would rat them out
Yeah.
just for their own personal gain. And it's like, where is the feeling of nationalism and patriotism and everything? So the first one was
Yeah.
1857
Yeah,
one.
that's how it was
Yeah.
easily taken.
Yeah.
And then it was taken again. And then it's just, India's had a very fraught history when it comes to people coming in and taking advantage of them throughout time. It's just, I think, like, especially Gandhi has been the most praised, and shouldn't be. Absolutely shouldn't be. Like, I hate it when I'm watching a movie from India, and then you always see, like, in the politician's building or in like a government building or in a police precinct, you always see Gandhi's picture everywhere.
Yeah.
And I just see that as an absolute red flag. It's just
a
like,
symbol of nonviolence.
yeah, no, like, that's the thing. I've always said, it's just like, be a symbol of defense.
Yeah,
Be a
put Bhagat
symbol-
Singh's photo there.
Yeah, but be a symbol of you're willing to hurt those who even try to trample on your children. That's the thing. What would a father do if he saw? Well, I don't know. I've seen movies where a man can strike a man's child because, oh, it's my brother, I should allow him to hit my child. I'm always of the type, it's like, if my brother was to hit my kid, he probably would be walking away with a broken leg. Honestly. Even if it was just a slap, because he has no right to do something like that. That's just how I viewed. And it's like, the world needs to view things that way. The nations need to be viewed that way, to where if you get attacked, guess what? You're going to crush them in return. You might not completely destroy them, but you will cripple them drastically. Absolutely drastically.
While Indians themselves had foreigners running their country. The British Empire controlled a quarter of the world's population at that time. They had the most powerful military on earth, and Gandhi's revolution fought them not on a battlefield, but through shame and moral pressure. Mass protests, hunger strikes, boycotts of British goods. When the British arrested him, thousands more took his place. When they beat protesters with clubs, the protesters didn't fight back. And the images of disciplined Indians being brutalized by armed British soldiers turned world opinion against the empire. How do you justify ruling people who refuse to hate you back? It made...
But that's the thing. So it's like, those are the images that were sent out. What about the Indians that were basically eradicating the British soldiers?
Yeah.
The British soldiers had to flee because they were being killed off. We're being killed off left and right. We're being forced out because, yes, what happens when your slave labor decides not to work? The entire industry dies. That's exactly what happened. A lot of the slave labor decided not to work anymore, and the others decided to pick up arms and fight. Yet for some reason, Gandhi's praised as the father of the nation because he decided to write some speeches and dress like a poor man and do nothing. It's always crazy how he's been portrayed. He's been portrayed, and it's like, great. But just go down as a father of a nation, someone who is remembered, not someone whose face is on every single bill, not someone whose face is in every government building, not someone whose face is in every precinct, not someone whose face is basically immortalized throughout the nation.
For doing nothing.
Yeah, basically, for doing nothing.
British rule morally unsustainable and turned occupation into an embarrassment. After the end of World War II, facing pressure both in India and at home, Britain finally gave up. But the speed of
Do you know
Britain's
how
exit turned
that guy died? The Nehru guy?
Oh, I want to watch the movie
who
on
was
it.
friends with Gandhi? He died of a sexually transmitted disease.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Triumph into catastrophe and showed how even the most disciplined movements can lose control when power changes hands faster than a new structure can form. For a few years beforehand, it was starting to be obvious that the British were on their way out. The Indian National Congress, the Muslim League, and others, they were fighting over the shape of the future of the country, and violence was already starting to occur. Then the new British Viceroy, Lord Mountbatten, accelerated the timeline from June 1948 to August 1947, giving the country essentially 10 weeks to end 2 centuries of colonial rule. The borders between India and Pakistan, they weren't even published until August 17th, 2 days after independence. People went to sleep in one country and woke up in another. Villages that had been mixed Hindu-Muslim for generations suddenly had to choose side, and nobody planned for population transfers because the assumption was that people would stay put. The British Indian Army was being divided along religious lines exactly when it was needed the most to maintain order. Muslim soldiers went to Pakistan.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
Because, okay, so Britishers' policy was divide and rule.
Yep.
And before leaving, they did exactly that. They divided, and the conflict is still going on.
Yeah, it's just, you're supposed to keep people together. You're supposed to unify the people against one enemy. The problem was, the one enemy India had was Britain. Britain left, and Britain requested to separate both parties, which allowed them to fight each other. And as soon as they started fighting each other, Britain was still able to make deals, do trades, and get the resources that came out of India. Because guess what? India at that time, dealing with war with what used to be its own people, it needed the money. It needed the finances. So, of course, it was going to broker deals with its original dictator, with its original slave master. The whole thing's just absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, I remember, like, not my mother's grandmother, but grandmother's mother or something. They had their land, and all of a sudden, after the division thing, the land was in Pakistan. And, you know, in the older days, they used to bury their money and their jewelry underground just to keep it safe, because they were like, oh, we're going to come back eventually, because they didn't know what was going on, or they would be never allowed because it's a separate nation at that point. So they basically had to give up everything, start their life new in India, because they didn't want, you know, to be in a place where there's like a majority of another religion.
Yeah, because again, I've always been stuck in like diversity and kind of that kind of thing, where Hispanics, blacks, whites, and everyone are basically in the same community, all treating each other the same. And then you have to separate because of someone's religion or someone's skin tone or someone's caste or someone's whatever. Just seems absolutely barbaric. But the thing is, it worked. Like you said, it's the worst thing to ever happen in India was the partition, because literally you have your own soil going to war with you, because they believe that the other land, the richer land, is theirs when they're just attacking their own brothers. They're just attacking their own brothers. India could become a North Korea type state if Gandhi's family always ruled. Yeah. The good thing is he's out, and now people are getting a taste of the good life in India.
Yeah.
They're getting a taste of prosperity. They're getting a taste of what it means to be a capitalist nation.
Yeah.
Not a socialist.
And Hindus to India. The force that might have prevented the massacres instead split apart as the massacres began. Local governments collapsed, and new city governments had zero authority. No track record, no ability to protect anyone. British troops stayed in their barracks under orders only to save British lives. The enormity of the situation makes numbers hard to pin down, but between 12 and 20 million people fled their homes in what became the largest forced migration in human history. Muslims ran to Pakistan, and Hindus and Sikhs went to India. And the violence was difficult to wrap your head around. Most wasn't random, but systematic and organized. Neighbors turned on neighbors they'd lived next to for generations. Gangs set entire villages on fire. Pregnant women were mutilated and babies killed. Men were dismembered with their genitals cut off, and corpses were displayed as warnings. They estimate that 100,000 women were raped or abducted. Some killed themselves or their children rather than face
Very
that.
nonviolent.
And others were murdered by their own men.
Very nonviolent. Absolutely. Like I remember watching the Bengal Files and hearing just like the Gandhi actually said, like, oh, if a woman doesn't want to be captured, she has the choice to hold her breath. She has the choice to bite off her tongue. It was just like, do you even hear your voices?
Well, he's the type of man who refused to give antibiotics, penicillin, I think, to his dying wife because he believed his prayers could save her. But when he got sick, he got all the treatments.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Well, let's be honest. If Gandhi existed at this point in time, after he died, they'd be finding a lot of proof on his hard drive.
Yeah.
I'm
It would be
sure,
like new Epstein files,
yeah,
but it would be like
would
Gandhi
be.
files.
It would be. Let's be honest, because those people who pretend to be the best of the best are usually the worst. Especially when they do such heinous things like seeing people get completely, or hearing about people getting completely butchered and not caring about it, and just like, oh, a woman can hold her breath, she can bite off her tongue. When people have like an instinct to live. Indians become short because of British. They starved in Indians 200 years, and because they lacked nutrition, they became short. And Punjabi people are tall because they are the last people. Are Punjabi people tall?
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of.
Yeah.
We've been there a few times. I think I've probably seen one or two tall people.
Well, yeah. Few of them.
And one or two. But yeah, it's just it's insane that all this disgusting stuff happened, and everyone claims like Gandhi's this amazing person. Again, because it's history now, no one will ever know the truth of it. But more is coming out gladly. But the fact that this guy's still talking about, oh, Gandhi did this such a great thing through no, he wasn't Martin Luther King. He was Gandhi, who ended up doing a partition, which led to the deaths of millions upon millions of Indians. Even Pakistanis at the time, which were still Indians. Because it spread hate. It spread absolute division and separation between the people.
Male relatives to preserve the family's honor. Entire trainloads arrived at stations with every passenger slaughtered and their bodies stacked in the aisles. When it comes to the numbers of people killed, there's wide estimates, from 200,000 to 2 million, with some recent researchers putting it closer to 3 million dead. Many people, including me here, go with 1 million because it's round and it's a reasonable, defensible number.
No.
You can't round off how many people died.
No, I don't like how he's just like, oh, people like me. It's just one. One's the lowest ballpark they could give it, so we're going to give it the lowest ballpark. No, when you start hearing about stuff like that, when you start hearing that there was a complete separation, no, it's more. Just like, oh, Iran said that they've only killed 3,000 protesters. Really? Really? We're not going to assume that that's close to like 60,000 innocent civilians were gunned down? Maybe 100? Oh, partition of India is an unfortunate blessing because 650 million Muslim population in one country is hell. Well, that's the problem. Is now you have them all in one place. They all feel removed from their homeland.
Yeah.
And now they feel like they want it back. If that never happened, Pakistan, guess what? Would never be attacking India.
Yep.
Because they would be Indians.
What they could have done is make a separate state.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of states. There are plenty of
Don't
things that
force
just
people to move away from their
relocate.
houses. Yeah.
5 million plus people were starved to death. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. It's just like you can't just say, oh, the ones who were killed and brutalized in this. No. There's the starvings. There's just like there's probably close to 300, 500 million people, maybe even more, 3 times that died during the British slave era, where they were ruling over India. The amount of people they starved, the amount of people they brutalized, the amount of people they killed during that time period for 200 years.
But whatever that number was, it clearly wasn't what Gandhi and other leaders wanted. He had opposed partition until the end and spent his final months trying to stop the violence. Fasting, walking through riot zones, begging for peace.
Him fasting would do tons of good for people who are dying.
And walking through a riot zone isn't going to do anything when you're walking through completely doing nothing, but you have like 50 guards around you. Again, if Gandhi was doing it by himself, it's something completely different. But he wasn't alone. He was protected. He may not have had the gun or the protection, but his guards were there.
Independence, a Hindu nationalist shot him dead, blaming him for being too sympathetic to Muslims
Good.
during partition. This
Good.
clearly wasn't Gandhi's fault. In the
It's funny. It's like, yep. Because it's the problem. There's been a divide. He divided it. He helped create that separation. He's a victim of what he created. He's a victim of what he created. It is not just British, but Muslim ideology that
Kafirs are inferior.
infidels are inferior, and jihad, which Gina was inspired by, demanded a different nation, and still complete population exchange didn't happen. Yeah, it didn't. It never would, because some people just refuse to give up their homes. That's the thing. They were the Indian Muslims. Just like there are American Muslims, there are American Sikhs, there are American Christians, there are American atheists, there are American Mormons. It's just people just live in America. They respect American rule, yet they can still practice what they wish.
Yeah, but they don't put their religion on
above
the
law,
nation. Yeah.
No, I don't support the assassination either. Well, good for you. Good for you. For me, he
deserved it.
Yeah, he created the environment which led to his death. He was a cause of his own action.
He caused
it's sad.
deaths of multiple people.
And told people not to defend themselves when they were being targeted. I mean, what are people supposed to think? What are people supposed to think when you're constantly sympathizing with those who are butchering you? You become the enemy. No, if his speech was take up arms and defend yourself, but don't go out and attack, but defend you and your family, nothing would have ever happened to him, because he's preaching like something logical and people can understand. But saying, oh, yeah, your wife and child are being mutilated and taken advantage of in front of you, just
go on hunger strike.
Yeah, go on hunger strike. Put down your guns and watch. If he starts punching you, just turn and take it on the other side as they're mutilating your wife and daughter in front of you. Think of it from that perspective. Like that's how I look at it. If someone grabbed my wife, if someone grabbed my child, and I was hearing like a superior, like this great speaker saying something completely against your emotional core, they don't deserve a voice, because they're preaching poison. You know for a fact in that moment that is nothing but poison. It has no place in society. It has no place.
Yeah, and like people say, oh, in Africa he did a lot of good work and whatever. But then later on you see those articles and everything where Africans hate Gandhi.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, is it all fake publicity?
Yeah, a lot of it was just fake news. Fake news. It's funny how everyone's starting to realize now, oh, the news is lying to me, when the news has always lied. Always lied. It's always pushed a narrative. But yeah, it's like if you put yourself in like a situation of someone who's being brutalized, or seeing your wife and daughter being taken advantage of, and you're hearing this one person constantly telling you to preach nonviolence, yeah, how would you feel in that moment? So in the end, he's a cause of his own actions. It's sad, but the thing is, he should have never been preaching that nonsense.
Gandhi's ass was kicked out.
Yeah, he was kicked out of South Africa. Yeah, the thing is, that kind of mindset only works in like a place like America where you don't have struggles, where everything is so good that you can preach that kind of nonsense. Because your family's not risk of getting mutilated. You're not risk of being hunted down and burned. There's no risk of like turmoil in the nation. There really isn't much of that. I could see Gandhi existing in the U.S., but the fact that you learn everything was going on in India at the time, and here he's preaching nonsense, it's like absolutely no. Absolutely no.
direct sense. He didn't draw the borders or rush the timeline. He spent his final months trying to stop the killing, but his success in forcing Britain's hand created the conditions. The moral pressure, the mass movements, the religious and nationalistic fervor he helped activate to throw off British rule turned lethal the moment the Brits were gone. Victory came too fast for anyone to really figure out what to do next. So Gandhi achieved what he fought for, India's independence without a war.
Why should we die, then rejoice
or
grief? If we die with a smile, we shall enter into a new life. We shall be ushering in a new world. What?
What?
Is that a saying or something? Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. American Muslims, nice joke. Muslims don't believe in nationality. They believe in Muslim brotherhood. Again, you're always looking at, the problem is the extremes always get shown. I've had Muslim friends growing up. Ibrahim was a great guy, but he went back to his home, and I remained here. But that's the thing. People who take their books and see it as above everything else, they're the problem. They're the problem. It has nothing. It's always to do with extremes. Always. Sure, some things are more brutal than others. Some things are more problematic than others. But at the same time, I always say, hate people, love the individual. Because you can still make friends with someone that doesn't think the same way you are.
Well, you can only make friends with them under normal circumstances.
Yeah.
If they get a call from their community, they'll drop their friendly act and take out their arms.
That depends on the type of community they're growing up in. Like, there are a lot of American Muslims that aren't like that because they're Americanized.
Yeah, they're Americanized. Yeah. But I'm talking about the Indian people.
Yeah, they're not extremists.
They can be your bestest friends. They can be whatever you want them to be. But the moment something goes wrong, they'll go into such extremes that you would have no idea how it got there.
Yeah, well, the thing is, India has them all cordoned off. Like, there are Muslim areas, and then there are Hindu areas.
They're not cornered off.
Yeah,
they
prefer isolate themselves into things. Like,
no, it's not isolating. No, they spread, and then...
But they stay, like, in a tight-knit community.
Yeah, they stay in communities.
They use the excuse, and I believe their families tell them, too, that they're afraid, the fear, you'll get ostracized if you go out.
Because there are places in India... where there's majority Hindu people, and then one family would move in, and then 2, and then 10.
Oh, I saw that when I was going there.
And they'd build like mosques there, and then more would move in, and then that place would primarily become a Muslim tight-knit community, and then Hindu girls would be afraid to walk through it.
Yeah.
I had one of my friend where a place close to her became like that, and now the girls don't go from that route.
Yep.
Because they're so scared.
Yeah,
because every time they would go there, the Muslims would stare at them.
But that
and
is
look
that
at
is
them
like,
weird.
if you've read the Quran, that is one of the ways of conquering. To move in and spread your gene, to outbreed, to make sure you multiply more than the others. As long as you have more people in a place, you can control the votes, you can control the laws, you can that's all preached. That's all preached, and it's those who follow that to like the extreme are like the worst. The worst.
But the gap between tearing down an empire and building a new country was filled with 1 million dead bodies. But before we get to that, let's talk about something that we've all felt, because everything costs more now. Whatever you had saved in 2020 has lost about 22% of its value.
Is it
Not because your savings shrank, but thanks to
sped up.
inflation. And here's what most people don't think about. Most retirement accounts are
slow is he
100%
talking?
tied to the stock market.
Very slow.
So when it
He's
drops,
doing an
your
ad
savings drop with
placement.
it.
I'm just gonna
What do you do?
mute it for now.
Yeah.
I'll let it play out.
Yeah.
Lord Krishna equals for actual truth fight. If you die, you will get heaven. If you win, you will enjoy Earth's kingdoms versus Gandhi saying, get run through. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because you have to defend. Again, every single like religious text and everything always talks about defending, always talks about protecting yourself, always talks about you protecting your people. The thing is like Gandhi's nonsense doesn't make sense in the long, especially how India was at the time. India was constantly being ruled by a dictator. They were nothing.
It's basically like you have an unwanted person in your house, and he's slowly taking over everything, and then his family members are moving in, and then your family has no space to live in it, and you're basically doing all the chores because technically it's your house, but they're reaping everything. They're enjoying all the foods. They're enjoying all the resources, and they're doing whatever they want, and you can't say anything.
Yeah.
And you're just supposed to take it as it is. They're in your rooms, they're in your bathrooms, they're in your kitchens, using whatever they want, whenever they want, and you're not allowed to say anything.
Yeah.
I would just kick them out. I don't care what my relations would be with those people. I would just be like, no,
Yeah, they don't
you're
belong.
disrespecting me and my house. You don't belong here. Get out.
Yeah, that's the thing is like Gandhi was a massive mistake. A massive mistake. The problem was Britain loved him because he looked great to the rest of the world. Because the rest of the world wasn't dealing with all this these turmoils, didn't know a clue what was going on in India. What?
The guy kept saying,
Oh.
see my comment? That's his comment.
Some of my friends are from Sindh, Pakistan, and their grandparents were kicked out because they were Hindus.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the thing is that the Hindus that are in Pakistan are being like forcefully converted, or their daughters are being converted.
Yep, they're being
and they're
get
destroying
married.
the temples and everything. So it's not like a thing of past. Oh no, things are much better now. No.
That things aren't better. Things aren't better. It just gets worse because the problem is the preaching in like Pakistan is they stole our land.
Yeah.
That's the preaching in Pakistan is they stole our land. So everyone grows up feeling that their land was taken from them.
Yeah, their opportunities were taken from them.
Yep.
They would have a much better lifestyle. They would have much better opportunities if they had the right to their own land.
Yeah, there's so much stuff that's absolutely not ridiculous. But the thing is, Britain loved Gandhi because he looked good to the rest of the world. So they painted him as the face of the one who saved India, because if they showed all the bloodshed, if they showed all the violence, if they showed everything that was actually going on and what has come from it, Britain would have been seen as someone who did absolutely abhorrent. But having someone peaceful come out, allegedly peaceful, come out of that massive slave nation made Britain look good to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And everyone heard Gandhi's words and I was like, oh, that sounds nice. Because America wasn't dealing with any turmoil, really. Britain wasn't really dealing with any turmoil. Russia, China, Japan, all these nations that would just see an article in the news, they weren't dealing with a neighbor that was constantly trying to destroy them. I guess the only one that could really understand the situation would be South Korea.
Yeah.
South Korea can probably be the closest to relate to see all this and be like, what the heck is wrong? Why is everyone talking about Gandhi being a great guy when they literally split the nation and now the previous nation is trying to always combat and take the nation back?
Yep.
Yeah, literally, South Korea is the only one that can identify.
About Gandhi being wrong or nonviolence being a lie. It's about a pattern that repeats when idealism collides with the reality of power transitions and when vacuums fill up with the ugliest parts of human nature. And it's also part of human nature and physics because destroying is the easy part. Look, I'd have a hard time building my studio from scratch, but I could burn it to the ground in under an hour. Building anything takes time and effort. Destroying it, not so much. That applies to nations and governments as well. Destruction only requires agreement on what's wrong. Everyone can unite against a common enemy, a broken system, or an oppressor. But building something that works requires consensus on a lot of complicated questions. India's independence movement had argued about that future for years. But when the common enemy left, those disagreements demanded immediate answers. Should it be one united India or separate Hindu and Muslim states? Who'd control the army? Where would the borders be? How would power be divided? The 10-week timeline essentially made finding practical answers impossible. And those lack of answers, they turned deadly. We saw similar chaos in Iraq in 2003. The U.S. toppled Saddam Hussein in 3 weeks, but the Bush administration disbanded his 400,000-man army and dissolved the government with no...
And they had no clue what to do after the fact. They had no clue what to do. And guess what? They've been dealing with turmoil ever since. That happens all the time, consistently.
Solid plan to replace either one. Sunni and Shia militias started settling scores, and what followed was a decade of car bombings, ethnic cleansing, and a civil war that killed over 200,000 people. The Russian Revolution promised peace, land, and food in 1917.
He better mention China as well. China's gone through the same exact thing.
Instead, they got years of civil war between reds and whites that killed millions, plus peasant uprisings, foreign intervention, famine, and eventually Stalin's terror. Afghanistan. The U.S. and its allies spent 20 years trying to impose a Western-style government in that country. Billions of dollars, thousands of lives, and decades of work. But literally the moment American troops pulled out and the Afghan government's authority just evaporated, the Taliban walked in and erased all of it in a matter of weeks. The Arab Spring overall followed that pattern. In 2011, protesters knocked off dictators across the Middle East in weeks. A decade later, Egypt's back under a military rule. Libya's in a permanent civil war, and Syria's recovering from a war that killed 500,000 people. It's a common theme. Destruction is fast, building is slow because it requires positive agreement on everything. Revolutionary movements are built for the first part,
Yeah, and a foreign nation can't be involved in the making of a new nation. That's the problem, is Gandhi had a huge hand in listening to Britain, in allowing them to dictate how the nation would be formed. No. No foreign nation should ever dictate how a nation is formed. Like Venezuela, we better keep our hands off it. Sure, take some oil, but keep your hands off how the nation is run. That is how it should be. Same thing with Iran. It would be great to go in aid, but keep your hands off how the nation is run. People need to establish things for themselves. Absolutely.
Not too often for the second part. Okay, so now let's look at some of the reasons into why revolutions turn deadly. Specifically, moral certainty, retribution cycles, and tribal reversion. India had all three. When people believe history's on their side and their cause is righteous, violence gets reframed as justice or self-defense and a necessary payback for past wrongs. India and Pakistan were both morally certain of their cause. Muslims believed they deserved a homeland free from Hindu domination after centuries as a minority. Hindus and Sikhs believed partition was a betrayal, a carving up of their sacred land to appease religious separatists. So when the violence started, nobody really thought they were committing murder. They were defending their people or avenging attacks on their community. They were protecting their faith from an outside threat. The massacres became self-reinforcing. A Muslim mob kills Hindus in one village, so Hindus retaliate somewhere else. Each side could point to genuine atrocities committed by the other side as proof they were the victim, proof their violence was defensive. Leaders on all sides of this lost control of their own movements because the fighters believed they were doing righteous work. Once the cycle started, it fed itself, and every attack justified the next. And then there's a third force that makes it worse. When institutions collapse, humans revert to their oldest loyalties: kinship, religion, ethnicity. Civic identity is fragile, and it requires a functioning system to maintain it. Tribal identity? It's ancient and instinctive. India's Muslims and Hindus had lived together for generations. They intermarried. They shared neighborhoods. The moment British authority vanished and violence started, they again sorted out by religion because that's who could protect you when there's no government. The neighbors you'd known your whole life suddenly became threats based on which god they prayed to. Yugoslavia clearly showed this as well. Tito's Brotherhood and Unity held Serbs, Croats, and the Bosnians together for decades. They lived in the same apartment buildings and worked together. Within a few years of Tito's death, nationalist politicians activated ethnic identity as a weapon. Within a few years, they were committing genocide against their former neighbors. Rwanda, same thing. Hutu.
Always avoid purity testing. Anyone who views purity testing as a way to judge who you are is evil. Is evil.
There was one comment up top.
What? Weil? Let me see.
More.
More.
That one.
M.K. Gandhi. Hindus should not harbor anger against Muslims, even if the latter wanted to destroy them. Even if the Muslims wanted to kill us, we should face death bravely. How is it brave to just stand there and take something to your stomach? What's brave is defending your family. What's brave is protecting yourself from your nation, or protecting yourself and your nation, your neighbors, your friends. That's what's brave. I hate how this guy still thinks like Gandhi was a great person, but there was no structure in place. I was like, no.
When Tutsi identities had been somewhat fluid for centuries, but when order collapsed in 1994, about 1 million people were hacked to death in 100 days. Radio broadcasts told Hutus they were under existential threat, and the killing was framed as self-defense. So neighbors killed neighbors with machetes, sorting out by ethnic category for protection. Cambodia's.
Yep. And what's funny is, like, if you're on the outside looking at it, it's just like they're just Africans killing Africans because of some tribal dispute. Same thing that's going on in, like, Somalia, where they hate the other person because they're not Somalia enough.
Khmer Rouge. Pol Pot wanted to create an agrarian communist utopia, so he justified emptying cities and killing anyone who seemed too educated. Heck, wearing glasses could get you executed because it looked like you were illiterate. Nearly 2 million Cambodians were killed in 4 years, almost a quarter of the population.
I thought wearing glasses made you look like you studied a lot and ruined your eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, people wear glasses to look smart.
No, not me. I wear them so I can see just a little bit better.
I wear them to look smart.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. But that's the thing. I don't like how he still sees, like, that's the thing. He can learn as much as he wants, but he'd still see Gandhi as, like, this great person. It was just the infrastructure wasn't in place. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the people's fault, not Gandhi's fault, basically.
It's the people's fault. There was nothing there.
Yeah.
Institution cycles feed themselves. Tribal identity fills the void when institutions collapse. And once you're convinced you're on the right side of history, the methods stop mattering as much as the mission. Hey, just a reminder again, if I mess up on something substantive here, let me know. I'll address it down below, both in the comments and the description box. So a quick look at history shows that India's partition wasn't an exception. And in general, blood is the rule. I could go through dozens of examples. The pattern generally holds, but it does break down when there's no sudden revolution at all. Brazil's military dictatorship, it gradually handed power to civilians over 6 years in the 80s. Spain's transition took 7 years after Franco died. Poland's solidarity, they spent a decade building alternative structures before the handover. Slow, boring compromises. It can also be more peaceful when another power is involved, especially after war. Like, think of the rebuilding of countries like Germany.
Yeah,
and
but they
Japan
didn't
after World War
separate
II.
into separate countries
that's the biggest
because
issue.
some people weren't agreeing with things. No, they sat together, they compromised whatever they could, and they got a mutual decision.
Like I hate how like the US is trying to police nations, but at the same time it makes sense for like something like what's going on in India at the time, for India to reach out and be like, Britain screwed us over, come send aid. Would the US do it? Who knows? But it's like they needed a military presence to at least settle things down, if not to do anything, just to be there, because Britain hid in their bunkers because the Hindus and Muslims were already killing each other. So the British soldiers just cared about themselves.
Let's just sit here, let them do
Yeah,
whatever.
let's wait for our evac. That's basically what it was. It's just it's insane how and he's still like, oh, Gandhi was okay. No.
I mean, revolutions where power changes hands quickly, they usually produce violence, even the ones we celebrate. Let's look at my favorite revolution, the American Revolution, which is justifiably seen as a success story. The Founding Fathers created a constitutional republic that's lasted over 2 centuries. They avoided the terrors, the purges, and a collapse. They had a careful design of checks and balances and a federalist system that had a gradual transition of power. And it worked. And it took 13 years from independence to the Constitution, not the 10 weeks that India got. Here, the British didn't suddenly withdraw. They were kicked out militarily over 8 years of warfare. And that gave Americans time to figure things out, to build state governments, and to establish legitimacy before the final break. But even with all those advantages, the cost was still staggering. 25,000 Americans died in the revolution. Now, compared to the numbers I've been talking about, that feels small. But we have to remember that the colonies only had a population of about 2.5 million people. That means 1% of the entire American population died in that revolution. 1 out of 100 isn't a small number, however you...
In order to get rid of that dictator, in order to kick out Britain, we didn't need that British Empire trying to use us for slave labor. We kicked them out. We eradicated them. We forced them off our land, and then we created a constitution.
And then you hated
By
the tea
comparison,
ever since.
the Revolutionary
Yes.
War was
Coffee.
3 times deadlier than World War II for Americans, 10 times deadlier than World War I. The only conflict in history that was worse for it was the Civil War, which killed about 2% of the population. And the Civil War happened largely because the revolution left slavery unresolved. Now let's go back to India. 1 million dead is certainly horrific, but India's population in 1947 was about 390 million people. So on a per capita basis, the killing was a little over 0.25% of its population. The bloodless revolution wasn't bloodless in the end, but proportionally, it killed 1/4 of as many people as America's revolution. Gandhi's approach, for all of the failure and the horror of partition, was still less deadly per capita than the Revolutionary War we celebrate every 4th of July.
So he's trying to say, India's turmoil isn't that bad, guys. India's turmoil isn't that bad. Sure, the people started killing the people, but India's turmoil isn't that bad.
What
you hear
an
what
awful
he's saying?
guy.
Yeah, it's like, oh great, yeah, we're getting a story about how okay, you're being a little misled.
Yeah.
Need to hound the comments, being
That's
like,
such a stupid thing.
yeah. It's like, I think you need to study a little more Indian history before you make this video. I kind of want to comment that because it just seems so illogical. He's just doing like Western research and being like, oh, okay, let's look at other words, because he's just saying, oh, like only 1 million people. But it probably wasn't even close to that.
Now, it's not a defense of any violence. I mean, 1 million dead is 1 million dead, but it puts things in perspective.
See?
Because even with 1 million dead in partition's aftermath, Gandhi's
Look at him
approach
in
had
a
its
baby
advantages.
cradle.
So these are all good lessons to remember when you see people talking about a glorious revolution. The violence is often more than a failure of just execution, but what happens when order collapses faster than a new order can form. The only real question is whether it's worth it. And that's a question for another day. I mentioned that about 1% of Americans died in the revolution, but there's another statistic that it's also troubling. America has about 2 million people locked up in prison. Compared to similar countries or Europe, the U.S. incarcerates people at rates 2, 3, 5 times higher.
What's your
But why?
problem?
Most people have
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
You would hope that the
Yes.
criminals get locked up.
You would want criminals locked up. The
Yeah.
problem is, like right now, we're releasing too many. Like my mother worked in law enforcement, and a lot of the people who had done murders or who had taken advantage of women, who were serving like life sentences, were put out on parole because it was just like, oh, we need to be lenient. We need to be lenient. What? These people murdered people. These people take advantage of women. These people did all kinds of did heinous things to kids, and it's like, oh, we're gonna release them and just be lenient. Be lenient. I didn't really care for this guy. I didn't really care for this guy. You know what?
No.
I'm gonna put it.
As soon as he said, "Oh, he made
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Indian freedom, whatever," I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
It's just. Wow, this video is not only about India, it's about how revolution works. Some people just don't seem to understand. I kind of want to put a comment on it, but I'll just avoid it. I'll avoid it.
Yeah.
It's just, I just put a thumbs down. It was like, there's no way. There's no way. I saw it earlier. I was like, ooh, Gandhi killed 1 million people. It's like, this is more down my alley. I want to see more about him because he's praised as this like great guy in the West. I want to see what people actually learn. And it seems like this guy did no real research. Did no real research. He's still trying to praise Gandhi at every turn.
You guys got a video? What's so bad?
And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Wait on that.